Today is January 8th. It's the 8th day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. On this day in 1835, America is finally debt-free for the first and what will be the only time in its history. The federal government incurs great war debt during the American Revolution, and it just grows and grows and grows until President Andrew Jackson comes to office. Jackson hates debt. He hates it with a capital H. Once a land speculator in Tennessee, a bad land deal plunges Jackson into major debt, and this experience scars him. He views America's national debt as the national curse. When Jackson enters office, the national debt is at $58 million. 6 years later, it's all paid off. All of it. The government, for once, has a surplus, reportedly of $19 million. So how does Jackson do it? Besides being a stickler on the national budget and blocking every spending bill that crosses his desk, Jackson gets the government into the real estate business. There's a huge real estate bubble happening in the western states, and the federal government owns a lot of western land. Jackson sees the demand and provides the supply. So then what went wrong? How did America end up back in debt after one glorious, unshackled year? The answer is the surplus. Jackson needs to stash the surplus somewhere, but since he got rid of the national bank, which he hated more than debt, his only option is to give it to the states, under the condition that if the federal government needs it, the money will be returned. The 26 states at the time receive a portion of the surplus based on each state's electoral votes. Funds are doled out in installments over the course of a year. Maine is the only state to generously give their share to its citizens on a per capita basis, roughly $2.02 for each free person. North Carolina and Maryland use their shares to pay off their state debts. Alabama, Georgia, and Virginia put the money into their state banks. 8 other states pay their state or county expenses with the funds, while the remaining 12 states put the money towards their schools. Just 2 years later, in 1837, the Western land real estate bubble finally bursts, just as Jackson is heading out of office. President Martin Van Buren inherits the economic crash that follows, which leads to a depression. It takes 6 years before the economy improves. And in that time, the federal government needs money. But it never asks the states for those surplus funds back. Instead, the federal government begins to borrow again, bringing to a close that brief moment in time when America is debt-free on this day in 1835. Born on this day in 1947, David Robert Jones. Jones is born in South London and moves with his family to the suburb of Bromley 6 years later. When he's 8, he attends Burnt Ash Junior School, where he performs in the school choir. His singing voice is, quote, considered adequate. His abilities playing the recorder are above average, but it's his dancing during the music and movement class which catches his teacher's attention. His interpretations are described as, quote, vividly artistic, and his poise is considered, quote, astonishing for a child. Young David's interest in music expands when his father introduces him to American artists such as the Platters, Fats Domino, Elvis Presley, and Little Richard. When he hears Little Richard sing Tutti Frutti, David Jones feels he has heard God. By age 15, Jones forms his own band, the Conrads, that's spelled with a K. They play guitar-based rock and roll at local teen gatherings and weddings, and the next year, he informs his parents he's going to be a pop star. By the mid-60s, David Jones, stage name Davy Jones, has performed with different bands, but experiences dissatisfaction. He also finds that his stage name is leading to confusion with Davy Jones of the Monkees. So he gives himself a new name, naming himself after the 19th century American pioneer James Bowie and the knife he popularizes. Davy Jones is now David Bowie. In April 1967, David Bowie's solo single The Laughing Gnome, in which his vocals are sped up to produce more of a chipmunk sound, fails to make the music charts. His self-titled album is released 6 weeks later and also fails to make an impression. He doesn't release another album for 2 more years, but before long, David Bowie begins to experience some success. On his 69th birthday, on this day in 2016, David Bowie releases his 25th studio album, titled Black Star. It's met with critical acclaim. When David Bowie dies 2 days later from liver cancer, his longtime producer Tony Visconti shares with the public that this album has been intended as Bowie's swan song and a parting gift for his fans. The day after his death, intense interest in David Bowie's music skyrockets. The album debuts at number 1 on album charts around the world, including the US Billboard 200. He is an artist ahead of his time and gone too soon. There are 357 days left in the year. On This Day is produced by me, Dave Schultz. Thank you very much for listening. Today's episode written by Elizabeth Schultz. #LizzieB. So if you're still listening, we can be heroes just for one day. Talk to you tomorrow.
Where shall we live in this terrible town, where the price for our eyes shall squeeze them tight like